The note was so ordinary at first glance, just a small piece of paper lying on the kitchen counter. It might have been there for hours, but I noticed it only after my second cup of coffee. I took a sip, unfolded the paper, and read the familiar handwriting. Adam, I have a work meeting tonight, so I'll be home late. Don't wait up. Love, Lily. I frowned. It wasn't like Lily to leave notes. We usually texted, and she hadn't mentioned anything about a late meeting. But work had been busy for her lately, or at least that's what she told me, so I brushed off the unease and stuffed the note into my pocket. Still, something nagged at me throughout the morning. The wording seemed off, somehow. The more I thought about it, the more suspicious it felt. But I reasoned with myself. What was there to be suspicious of? We'd been married for almost 10 years. Trust was never an issue between us. At least, I thought it wasn't. The unease only grew by midday. I was supposed to meet a friend for lunch but cancelled at the last minute, feeling like I needed to go back home. My mind spun in circles with no clear answers. What was I expecting to find? I wasn't sure, but I had to see for myself if there was any real reason to be worried. When I got home, I stood in the entryway for a moment, trying to shake the feeling. The house was quiet, too quiet, and the silence pressed down on me like a heavy weight. I walked into the living room, glancing around as if the answer would just jump out at me. It didn't. But something else did. I spotted a folder poking out from the side of Lily's desk, one of those cheap plastic ones you'd pick up in a rush from the corner store. I'd seen it before but had never really paid attention to it. Today, I did. Something inside me told me to open it. I hesitated, but eventually, curiosity won out. I sat down at the desk and pulled it out. Inside were papers, bank statements, but not from any account I recognized. The first statement was in my name, but it was from a bank we didn't use. And the amount of money, it was much more than I remembered us having. Thousands of dollars moved in and out, some withdrawals I had never made, others transferred to accounts I had no knowledge of. My heart began to pound. The next few papers were worse. Loan agreements. Some of them were for massive amounts, all signed in my name, but I couldn't remember signing any of them. The handwriting was mine, but it didn't feel like mine. The dates of the loan stretched back months, maybe even a year. Had she been doing this all along, right under my nose? A ringing sound startled me. My phone buzzed on the table. It was a text from Lily. Lily, running late, everything okay? Love you. I stared at the message, my hands trembling. It was so normal, so casual. But now, everything felt like a lie. What else was she hiding? I didn't respond. Instead, I went to the bedroom, headed straight for the small safe we kept in the closet. My passport and a few important documents were stored there, just in case we ever needed them quickly. At least, that's what I told myself. But when I opened the safe, my passport was gone. I slammed the door of the safe shut, my pulse racing. A sick feeling rose in my stomach. I rushed back to her desk, flipping through more papers. What was happening? Where was she? I grabbed her laptop, hesitated for only a second before opening it. She'd always been careful to log out of everything, but this time she'd left it on, almost as if she hadn't expected me to find anything. The email was still open. I clicked on the latest message. It was from a man I didn't recognize, but the subject line made my heart drop. Flight confirmation. I opened it. 2 tickets to Paris. Departing tomorrow. For Lily and a man named Vincent. My fingers clenched around the mouse as I stared at the message, unable to process what I was reading. She had bought tickets. She was leaving. With him. My breathing grew ragged as I scrolled through the rest of their email thread, their plans, their promises to each other. All of it laid out in front of me like some twisted nightmare. That's when I heard the front door. It clicked open, and Lily walked in, keys jangling in her hand. I hadn't expected her to be back so soon. She froze the moment she saw me sitting at her desk, her eyes wide with surprise. Adam? Her voice wavered as she set her purse down slowly. what are you doing home? I didn't say anything at first. I couldn't. The words caught in my throat. All I could do was hold up the printed bank statement, the one with the fake loans under my name. Her face paled. What's this, Lily? I finally asked, my voice low and trembling with barely controlled anger. What the hell have you been doing? She didn't answer right away. She glanced at the papers, then back at me, her lips pressing together tightly. The silence was deafening. Adam, I can explain, she started, but I cut her off. Explain. You forged my name, took out loans I knew nothing about, and now you're running off to Paris with, I paused, pointing at the laptop screen. With him? Who is Vincent, Lily? Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't care. I wasn't sure I'd ever care again. Adam, please, just let me explain. It's not what it looks like. I slammed my hand on the desk, making her jump. Not what it looks like. You forged my identity, Lily. Stole money. Took my passport. And you're leaving me. She stepped closer, hands out like she was pleading for me to listen, but I couldn't hear her anymore. The betrayal hit me in waves, each one worse than the last. I needed a way out, Adam, she finally said, her voice breaking. I didn't know how to tell you. It just got too complicated. Too complicated. I repeated, my voice bitter. You stole from me, Lily. You planned this. This wasn't just an affair. You ruined everything. She crumbled then, sobbing into her hands, but her tears only filled me with more rage. She had already made her choice. I stood there, staring at the woman I had once loved, realizing she was no longer the person I thought I knew. I'm leaving tonight, I said quietly, grabbing my jacket. And when I'm back, you'd better be gone. Her sobs echoed as I walked out, slamming the door behind me. The reality of her betrayal weighed on me like a crushing weight, and for the first time, I wasn't sure if I could ever breathe normally again. Paris. The city of lights, of romance, of dreams. But for me, it had become a city of betrayal. I stood outside the small cafe, the Eiffel Tower visible in the distance, though its charm was lost on me. My heart was pounding, hands clenched at my sides as I waited for her. I'd spent the last few days piecing together every detail, every lie, every moment she had stolen from me. Now, I was here to confront her. Hiring a private investigator had been the first step. I'd gathered every bit of evidence I needed, the fake loan documents, bank transfers to accounts she'd opened without my knowledge, and photos of her with him, Vincent, her lover. They were living it up in Paris while my life back home was falling apart. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. This was fraud. Theft. A violation of everything I thought we'd built together. The door to the cafe opened, and there she was, Lily. She looked different here. Her hair was down, flowing in loose waves the way she used to wear it when we first met. She wore a long, flowing coat, and her face was relaxed. Almost happy. It made my stomach turn. She hadn't seen me yet, so I stepped forward, letting the shock of my presence hit her. Adam? Her eyes widened as she froze in place, looking like she'd seen a ghost. I said nothing for a moment, just letting her take me in. She hadn't expected me here. She thought she was free. That was her first mistake. We need to talk, I said coldly. Her eyes darted around, as if looking for an escape, but I stepped closer, blocking her path. I wasn't going to let her run. Not this time. Adam, what are you doing here? Her voice trembled, but there was something else in her tone, fear. I think you know exactly why I'm here, I said, keeping my voice steady, though I could feel the rage bubbling underneath. Where's Vincent? Her face paled at the mention of his name, and she took a step back, shaking her head. Adam, please. It's not what you think, not what I think. I laughed bitterly, reaching into my coat and pulling out the folder I'd been carrying with me since I arrived. I held it up in front of her. I've got the loan agreements, the bank statements, and everything you forged in my name. Do you really want to stand here and tell me it's not what I think? Lily's mouth opened and closed, like she was trying to find words, but nothing came. She knew she was trapped. She looked down at the ground, her shoulders sagging in defeat. I didn't mean for it to get this far, she whispered. Didn't mean for it to get this far. I repeated, incredulous. You took my identity, Lily. You stole my money, my passport. You planned an entire life here with him. You knew exactly what you were doing. Tears filled her eyes as she looked up at me. I was desperate, Adam. I felt trapped. You felt trapped. I interrupted, my voice rising. So you decided to ruin my life instead? Do you have any idea what you've done? Lily took a shaky breath, her lips trembling as the tears started to fall. I never wanted to hurt you. I swear. I didn't know how to fix things between us. I thought it would be easier to start over. Easier? I said, my voice filled with disbelief. You thought forging my name, emptying our accounts, and running away with another man would be easier? She covered her face with her hands, her sobs muffled. For a moment, the sound tugged at something inside me, but I pushed it down. There was no sympathy left. Not for her. I stepped forward, lowering my voice but keeping it cold. Here's what's going to happen, Lily. I've already filed for divorce, and I've got a lawyer handling the fraud charges. You're going to sign whatever papers they send you, and you're going to cooperate. If you don't, her head snapped up, panic in her eyes. Adam, please. Don't do this. I'll fix it. I can make this right. There's no fixing this, I said, my voice hard. You made your choice when you lied to me. When you forged my name. When you ran off with him. I'll come back, she said desperately, grabbing my arm. We can figure this out. I made a mistake, but we can fix it together. Please, Adam. I yanked my arm away from her, shaking my head. It's too late for that. You're not coming back. Not ever. Her face crumpled, and she sank into the nearest chair, sobbing uncontrollably. People around us in the cafe started to notice, whispering to one another as they watched the scene unfold. But I didn't care. Let them see. Let them all see the mess she had made. I leaned in, lowering my voice so only she could hear. I loved you, Lily. I trusted you. But now, I'm going to make sure you lose everything. Her sobs quieted as she looked up at me, her tear-streaked face a mixture of guilt and fear. Adam, sign the papers, I said firmly. Or I'll make sure the fraud charges stick, and you'll never see the outside of a prison cell again. She said nothing, just stared at me, her face pale and broken. I turned to leave, but before I could step away, her voice stopped me. I'm sorry, she whispered, so quiet I almost didn't hear her. I never meant for it to end like this. I paused, letting her words hang in the air for a moment. Then, without looking back, I said, neither did I. And with that, I walked away, leaving her behind in the city that was supposed to be her new beginning. There was no anger left. Just a cold, empty sense of finality. Back in the hotel that night, I sat by the window, watching the lights of Paris flicker in the distance. The legal process would begin soon, divorce papers, fraud charges, and whatever else my lawyer could throw at her. But none of it felt as satisfying as I'd imagined. The truth was, I wasn't sure if anything ever would. Paris had taken her from me. But more than that, she had taken herself from me. And now, all that was left was the wreckage. The air was thick with tension as I stood at the front of the banquet hall, a gathering of friends and family seated before me, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. The room was decorated elegantly, crisp white tablecloths adorned with soft floral arrangements, candles flickering in the dim light, but all I could focus on was the weight of the truth I was about to unleash. I had arranged this reconciliation dinner under the pretense of wanting to heal old wounds and share what had happened. In reality, it was a stage for exposing Lily's betrayal. I needed everyone to know the truth, to see the woman she had become, and to understand the extent of her deceit. As the evening progressed, I played the role of the gracious host. I laughed at jokes, made small talk, and accepted the well-meaning questions about how I was doing. But every polite conversation felt like a mask hiding the storm raging inside me. I felt the eyes of my friends, especially those closest to Lily, who expected her to be here. They had no idea what I was planning. Finally, I cleared my throat, tapping my glass with a spoon to get everyone's attention. The room quieted down, and I took a deep breath, scanning the faces in front of me. They were all here because they cared about Lily and me, believing in the life we'd built together. "Thank you all for coming tonight," I began, my voice steady but firm. "I know it's been a rough few months for me, and I appreciate your support. I wanted to gather everyone here to share some news, something I've been keeping to myself for far too long." I hesitated for a moment, letting the anticipation build, watching as the puzzled expressions morphed into concern. Then I continued, "Lily is not coming home. She's not who you think she is." The murmurs started, confusion spreading like wildfire through the crowd. I glanced toward the back of the room, where a few close friends, including Matt and his wife, Sarah, were seated, their brows furrowed with worry. "Last year, I discovered that my wife has been living a double life," I said, raising my voice slightly to cut through the chatter. "She forged my identity, took out loans in my name, and stole my passport to run away to Paris with her lover, Vincent. And, as if that isn't enough, Vincent is also her cousin." Gasps erupted from the audience, and I felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it. I was pulling back the curtain on our life, exposing the rot beneath the surface. "Adam, what are you saying?" Matt finally spoke up, rising from his chair, his expression a mix of disbelief and concern. "Are you serious?" "I'm as serious as I can be," I replied, my voice cold and unwavering. "I have documents to prove everything, bank statements, loan agreements, emails. She's been living a lie. Why didn't you tell us?" Sarah chimed in, her voice filled with compassion. "We could have helped." I looked at her, and for a moment, guilt washed over me. Because I thought I could handle it. I wanted to protect our marriage, our life. But she made her choice, and now it's time everyone knew the truth. As I spoke, I caught sight of a few guests whispering among themselves, their expressions shifting from shock to sympathy. I felt empowered, but a knot of anger tightened in my chest. I had to drive the point home. "Lily stole from me," I continued, "but more than that, she shattered our vows. I'm here tonight to expose her betrayal, to ensure everyone understands the extent of her deceit." The room fell silent, the weight of my words hanging heavily in the air. I took a step back, my heart racing. It felt good, exhilarating even, to take control of the narrative. But it also felt strangely lonely. "Where is she now?" someone called out from the crowd, breaking the silence. "Last I heard, she was enjoying her new life in Paris with Vincent," I replied, bitterness creeping into my voice. "While I'm left here to pick up the pieces." "Did you talk to her?" another friend asked, skepticism lacing his tone. "I did," I answered, recalling the confrontation from days earlier. "I gave her a chance to come clean. But she chose to run instead." Suddenly, the doors swung open, and the chatter died down as all eyes turned to the entrance. There stood Lily, her face pale and eyes wide, looking like a deer caught in headlights. She hadn't expected to see me here, let alone in front of everyone, spilling our secrets. "Adam," she called out, her voice trembling, a mix of confusion and desperation. "What are you doing?" I stepped forward, every ounce of anger and hurt I felt coiling tightly in my chest. "I'm letting everyone know the truth, Lily. They deserve to know who you really are." Lily's face flushed as she took a step into the room. "You can't do this," she protested, her voice rising. "This isn't fair." I shot back, my voice louder than I intended. "You think it's fair to steal from me, to lie, to run away with another man? You think it's fair to let everyone believe you're some kind of victim here?" The tension was palpable, and I felt the weight of every eye in the room trained on us. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could say anything, Matt stepped in front of me, concern etched on his face. "Adam, maybe we should calm down." "No," I snapped, not taking my eyes off Lily. "She needs to hear this. You all need to hear this. Lily opened her mouth again, but nothing came out. Instead, she looked around the room, and for a moment, I saw the mask of confidence slip. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, she stammered, tears pooling in her eyes. I thought I was doing what was best for both of us. I thought if I left, we could both be happy. I laughed bitterly. You thought running off to Paris with your cousin and taking everything that was mine would make us happy? You've destroyed any chance of happiness we had. The crowd murmured in shock, and I could see the whispers turn into conversations, everyone trying to process the reality I had laid bare. Lily, you don't get to twist this, I said, stepping closer, my voice low and intense. You made your choice. And now, you'll face the consequences. With that, I turned away from her, the anger burning inside me morphing into something colder. I didn't need to watch her crumble. I had already seen too much of her weakness, too much of her betrayal. The room felt charged, as if the very air crackled with the tension between us. Friends moved closer together, some shaking their heads in disbelief while others exchanged sympathetic glances. Let's take a break, Matt suggested, trying to diffuse the situation. Maybe we can all process what we've just heard. But I wasn't done. I wanted everyone to see her for who she truly was. I stepped up to the microphone one last time. I know you all care for Lily. I once did too. But I won't allow her to manipulate this situation any longer. I'm done being the victim of her deceit. It's time for the truth to be known. As I looked around the room, I saw a mix of shock, concern, and a flicker of understanding in their eyes. This was my story now, and I would own it. With every word, I felt a layer of the pain peel away, revealing a new sense of purpose. And as Lily stood there, exposed before everyone, I realized I didn't just want justice, I wanted my life back. The aftermath of the dinner left me in a haze. The room had emptied, leaving behind the echoes of shocked whispers and the remnants of a shattered relationship. I sat alone in the quiet banquet hall, the candles flickering like the last vestiges of warmth in a cold, dark reality. Outside, the night air was crisp, the Parisian lights twinkling like stars in a foreign sky. But inside, all I felt was the weight of loss. As I gathered my things, Matt walked in, concern etched on his face. He paused, taking in the scattered chairs and the remnants of the evening's chaos. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. I shrugged, forcing a weak smile. "I don't know. I did what I set out to do, but it still feels surreal." He stepped closer, leaning against the table. "You had to expose her, Adam. She can't keep hurting you like this." "I know," I replied, rubbing my temples as if that would ease the tension. "But seeing her like that, it's hard. I never wanted it to come to this." "You're right to feel that way," Matt said, his voice steady. "But this is about protecting yourself now. You deserve better than what she did to you." "I thought I knew her," I said, shaking my head in disbelief. "Now I feel like I don't know anything at all." Matt paused, considering his next words carefully. "You're not defined by her actions. You'll rebuild from this. You have friends who care about you. You're not alone." I appreciated his support, but it didn't erase the heartache. "Thanks, man. I just want to move on, you know. But it feels like a mountain to climb." "We'll tackle it one step at a time," he assured me. "You've got this." As we left the hall, I felt a mix of emptiness and relief. The following days were a blur of meetings with my lawyer and sifting through the remnants of my life with Lily. It was surreal to pack up the belongings she left behind, each item a reminder of the betrayal woven into our past. One evening, while going through some boxes in my apartment, I stumbled upon a framed photo of us from happier times, a vacation we'd taken together in Italy, sun-kissed and carefree. I felt a pang of nostalgia but quickly pushed it aside. That Adam was gone, replaced by someone stronger and more determined. "Adam, you in there?" Matt called from outside my apartment, his voice breaking the silence. I opened the door, forcing a smile. "Hey. Just sorting through some stuff. Mind if I join?" he asked, stepping inside with a can of beer in hand. Thought we could talk about something other than, you know, her. Sounds good to me, I replied, grateful for the distraction. Matt flopped onto the couch, handing me a beer. So, what's the plan now? You can't just wallow in this forever. I don't want to, I said, taking a sip. I need to focus on me for a change. I've been too wrapped up in her life for too long. I need to reclaim my own. Exactly, he said, nodding. Have you thought about traveling? Getting out of here for a bit? Honestly, that sounds tempting, I admitted. But where would I even go? Anywhere but here, man. Why not revisit that Italian place from the photo? He suggested with a grin. You could find some new memories to replace the old ones. I considered it, and for the first time in a while, I felt a flicker of hope. You know, that could work. I've always wanted to explore the Amalfi Coast. There you go. Matt exclaimed, his eyes brightening. Book a flight, hit the beach, drink some limoncello. You'll come back with a fresh perspective. Maybe I will, I said, feeling a sense of determination settle in. It's time to reclaim my happiness. A few days later, with the support of friends and a newfound resolve, I booked my trip to Italy. I packed light, ready to shed the weight of my past and step into a new chapter. The flight was filled with anticipation, the kind that comes when you're on the brink of change. Once in Italy, the sights, sounds, and smells enveloped me in warmth. The sun-drenched streets of Positano welcomed me, the vibrant colors of the buildings reflecting my mood. Each day was an adventure, trying local cuisine, exploring hidden beaches, and meeting new people. I laughed, danced, and allowed myself to breathe. One evening, as I sat at a small cafe overlooking the sea, a woman caught my eye. She was laughing with friends, her hair blowing in the warm breeze, and I felt a familiar tug in my chest. Not the same kind of love I once felt for Lily, but the spark of connection. I turned back to my meal, but my mind wandered. You can't let your past control you, I reminded myself. You have the power to shape your future. On my last night in Positano, I stood on the balcony of my hotel, gazing at the stars reflected on the water. I thought about everything that had transpired, the betrayal, the pain, and the lessons learned. Each moment had brought me here, and I realized that every scar was a part of my journey, leading me to a stronger version of myself. Back in the States, the divorce proceedings moved forward, and the legal repercussions of Lily's actions began to unfold. I felt a sense of closure wash over me as I signed the final documents. I was no longer a victim, I was a survivor. In the months that followed, I embraced new opportunities and reconnected with old friends. I began dating again, but this time, I was cautious. The scars of betrayal still lingered, but they were a reminder of my strength. One evening, as I sat with a new date at a local bar, I found myself smiling genuinely for the first time in ages. She shared a story about her recent trip, and I listened intently, feeling a spark of excitement. I'm glad we met, she said, leaning in slightly. I've really enjoyed our time together. Me too, I replied, a warmth blooming in my chest. It feels good to laugh again. As the night went on, I realized that while the journey to heal was ongoing, I was ready to embrace it. I could move on from the hurt, and I could build a life filled with new memories and joy. And somewhere deep down, I knew that the truth would always be my ally. It had exposed the darkness of betrayal, but it had also illuminated the path to my own redemption. I had reclaimed my life, and in doing so, I had rediscovered myself. The past was part of me, but it no longer defined me. The future was unwritten, and for the first time in a long while, I felt excited to see where it would lead.